a creature no bigger than a loaf of bread, trembling in the tall grass, soaked through by a storm that ended hours ago. It hasn't moved, it doesn't know where to go, and something enormous is coming through the trees. The Anatolian Plateau is not a gentle place. In the shadow of ancient mountains where the wind never fully rests, the land rolls out in long waves of golden grass and cold stone. Shepherds have worked these highlands for thousands of years, and the animals they keep have shaped themselves around the harshness of this world. The summers burn, the winters bite without mercy, and the predators, wolves and bears mostly, move through the darkness like rumors that suddenly become real. It was early autumn when a shepherd named Yusuf found the ewe dead at the edge of a ravine. She had fallen in the night, and beside her, impossibly alive, was her lamb, a tiny male, cream white with a dark nose, still wet from birth. Yusuf lifted the lamb, wrapped it inside his coat, and carried it back to the farmstead. He had 6 dogs, working Kangals, ancient livestock guardians with barrels for chests and eyes like amber. He set the lamb down in the yard and watched to see what would happen. The largest of the Kangals, a male so broad-shouldered he looked carved from the hillside, crossed the yard slowly. His name was Copland. He was 4 years old and had never lost a single animal in his care. He approached the lamb the way only a confident animal approaches something small and afraid. Unhurried, deliberate. The lamb pressed itself flat against the ground, shaking so hard its legs blurred. Copland lowered his enormous head and sniffed the lamb from nose to tail in one long, slow breath. Then he did something that made Yusuf stand perfectly still. He lay down beside it, not near it, beside it, close enough that his warm flank pressed against the lamb's shivering body. The lamb stopped trembling. That first night, Yusuf left feed and water nearby. He expected the lamb to wander, to cry, to do what orphaned newborns do when they are lost and motherless. Instead, it tucked itself into the curve of Copland's body and slept until morning. By the second day, it was following Copland across the yard the way it would have followed its mother through the fields. By the third day, it was attempting to nurse on Copland's ear, which Copland endured with the patience of something ancient and unshakable. The other dogs accepted it. There was no aggression, no competition. The lamb moved through their world as if it had always belonged there, and the dogs moved around it the same way. When a crow landed too close in the yard and frightened the lamb into a panicked sprint, Copland was on his feet before the lamb had taken 3 strides. He placed himself between it and the bird without a sound. The crow left. Weeks passed. The lamb grew. It began to look less like a fragile thing that had stumbled into the wrong world and more like something that had found exactly the right one. It ate, it ran, it kicked its hind legs in the dramatic, senseless joy that lambs perform when life feels good. Copland would watch these performances with the expression of someone deeply unimpressed but fully committed. He never left the lamb alone for long. Then came the night that changed everything. It was deep winter. Yusuf had locked the smaller animals in the barn, and the dogs were posted outside as always. Somewhere past midnight, a wolf tested the fence line on the eastern side of the property. Copland heard it before any human could have. He moved through the dark without a sound, massive and purposeful, and the other dogs fell in behind him. What followed was not a fight so much as a statement. Copland posted himself at the breach point and roared, a sound so deep and physical it seemed to press against the chest of anyone who heard it. The wolf, which likely never met anything it couldn't outlast, reconsidered. It disappeared into the dark and did not return. But the lamb, startled by the commotion, had pushed through a gap in the barn and was standing in the open yard in the cold and the black, completely exposed. Copland found it within seconds. He herded it back toward the barn with his nose, nudging firmly but without panic, and stood outside the barn door until the first gray light of morning. Yusuf watched the footage from his security camera the next morning and sat quietly for a long time. He had raised Kangals for 30 years. He knew what they were capable of. But watching that dog herd a lamb back to safety in darkness, alone with a wolf somewhere in the hills, and then stand guard until sunrise, that was something he struggled to put into words. The lamb grew into a healthy ram. He never entirely behaved like a sheep. He walked with a confidence that was frankly unreasonable for his species. He had learned from the dog beside him that the world was something you stood your ground in, not something you fled from. And Copland, gray around the muzzle now, still found the ram in the yard each morning and lay down beside him in the sun. An abandoned animal, a guardian dog, and between them, something that no science quite explains, but that anyone who has ever watched it happen recognizes immediately. Some bonds are not chosen. They are simply found in a cold yard on a difficult morning when one creature decides that another one is worth protecting. If this story moved you the way it moved us, hit that like button and subscribe. We find these moments in the wild and in the forgotten corners of the world, and we bring them to you every single week. Don't miss the next one.